How's everything going? Sorry about your brother. Por el tono.
They worked him to death.
Huh?
They worked him to death.
It was your like trucking company.
Yes. In 1 week, they had him go to Canada. From Canada, he came back down. They sent him to Maine. He came back from Maine. They sent him to Michigan.
In 1 week.
In 1 week to Michigan.
That's a lot.
Then he came back
Wonder if he's coming.
And I might have worded it wrong. Because I just said demolition of gazebo, I didn't put the top.
Do you have drawings for this?
Yeah.
For the new one?
Yeah, it's for this. He wants to do it, right? Just gonna ask him some questions.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to first of all welcome our new Community Development Director. Can you just give us a brief of your name and a little bio on you?
Yeah. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Amy Weiser. I'm the new Community Development Director, and I come to you most recently from Moab, Utah, where I worked in community development and for a private developer for the last 6 years. And before that, I was in the state of Oregon, where I did community development and historic preservation for about 20 years. So now I'm here and glad to be here and in this great community and helping out and getting back some historic preservation stuff going to the board, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Well, welcome to Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Welcome. I noticed that we do have two different agendas, and I did question that, but it looks like we're within the proper protocol. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the first agenda. The first order of business is approval of the minutes for the meeting of July 28th, 2021. Are there any questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Medrano. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Gallegos. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is business items, application for certificate of approval for the placement of a sign for the Spice Rack LLC located at 210 Plaza Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico 87701, as submitted by the April Matias applicant and Dwayne Monroe owner. I see that Ms. Matias is here. Welcome, Ms. Matias. If you want to come up and give us your presentation, please. And before we have you do your presentation, can you please go through the process on the application?
Okay, her application is for certificate of approval for the placement of a sign for the Spice Rack LLC located at 210 Plaza Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico, 87701, as submitted by April Matthias applicant and Dwayne Monroe.
And is the application complete
It's
and ready
complete.
for approval?
Ready for approval.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Matias. Have a seat.
Oh, yes. So I'm April Matthias, previously April Esquivel. So I have my store there on 210 Plaza Street. It was previously my husband Vincent Matthias's law office, and he recently passed away last September. So I wanted to keep the building alive and well, and so I opened a little store. The front part of the store has been remodeled. A lot of the historic parts of it have been preserved, the wood floors and a lot of the woodwork, so we did as much as we could to preserve it. And so the front of the store is imported spices, herbs, teas, and other kitchen goods. So we currently have over 160 herbs, spices, and teas currently imported from right now over 35 countries.
Wow.
And everything is custom measured for whatever size that you would like, how much you want to take home. So you could take home just a little bit or a lot. We have vintage kitchen items, new kitchen items, also goods made by people in the community. So I have artwork, jewelry by people in the community, hopefully some ceramics soon from people in the community, and then the back of the store is women's and children's clothes. So I provide new clothes and then also a buy and sell model where girls and children can bring in their lightly used clothes and I'll buy them and resell them in the store. So I currently have that going on and I'm really excited about it. I hope to expand to a full apothecary to provide medical, more medicinal herbs. So I just got, I'm one test away from being licensed as a doctor of Oriental medicine.
Wow.
So I do have a big history and an education in medicinal herbs and hope to actually open an acupuncture and herbal clinic next year also.
Wow.
So I hope it brings something new and good to the community, and I hope it does well and that everybody enjoys shopping there, especially the cooks in the community and our international students and people who come and live here from other countries and other states. I hope it provides something really, really nice.
Appreciate your desire to
Yes.
open up a business and to stay local.
Yes.
And sorry to hear about your husband.
Yeah, and the sign was actually my husband's sign, but I have me in collaboration with a local artist will be painting the sign too. So I hope to keep a lot of the artwork and work that's done local.
Are there any questions from the board?
I know that, Mr. Chairman, I know that we don't have any control over the color, but I'm sure that based on what she's told us, that she'll have should stand out, with the colors that you're going to select.
Yes, it'll be in good taste. It won't be anything highlighter or anything funny colored.
That's all, Mr.
Hearing any other comments? Discussion? Do we have any motion for approval?
Make the motion we approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Rubio. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Gallegos. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Okay, the next applicant is the application for certificate of approval for the construction of a new gazebo behind Estalas Cafe located at 148 Bridge Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico, as submitted by Michael Long, LLC, and Frank and Jan Burskins. Ms. Perea, can you introduce the item?
Okay, the next item is an application that's set for certificate approval for the construction of a new gazebo behind Estella's Cafe located at 148 Bridge Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico, 87701, is submitted by Michael Long, GC, LLC, applicant, and Frank and John Burskins, owners. And this is going to be on a property that Mr. and Mrs. Burskins purchased right next to the Valencia parking lot.
And before we bring it to the committee, does it meet all application standards for the community development?
As I believe so,
Does?
but there were some questions that Ms. Weiser and Mr. Montoya were asking. It's
Okay,
going to be
so-
similar to what they put on the From what I understand, it's gonna be similar that was put on the breezeway. Kind of similar to what was put on the breezeway by CCHP and whoever else did that one.
Okay, so before we ask for action, we're gonna ask that those questions be brought before us and.
That's
and-
fine.
and
Contractor's
that
here to
they're
answer those.
clarified. Okay, so Mr. Long, are you here to present?
Yeah.
On behalf of the application?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Michael Long.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there was a set of plans that was given to Maria here.
I think they're here, the exhibits.
No, it's a set of drawings from the architect. I didn't,
Solier West? That's what I got from
Solier
Solier.
West, Kevin Balshar.
yeah, from Kevin.
Yeah, they're there.
Okay, well, there was a bigger drawing than this, but,
You wanna look at the big ones?
yeah, the reason I mention that is, I'm not sure, Maria had mentioned that, kind of was representative of that breezeway that goes from the parking lot to Bridge Street. And I'm not too familiar with that, but I would kind of refer to the drawings here. It's not exact, but it probably does represent that, what is in that breezeway, because I believe he designed that structure also. So it's basically exposed beams, and then I think some tongue and groove on top, and then a finished roof, basically 4 posts, and it's just a 20 by 20 structure, with a concrete pad underneath it.
Okay. And that's what it shows.
Yeah,
That's what the plans show.
right.
They're just reduced,
I'm not
so
sure
it's
if it's
hard
20,
to
yeah,
read.
it's 20 by 20. Yeah.
This is what you gave me when you handed in the permit.
Did I? I'm sorry. Too much.
Okay, are there any comments from the staff?
I just have a
regarding
quick
the
question,
application.
Mr. Long. Is the gazebo intended for public use? Or are the owners wanting to fence that off, or is it just for
Well,
the?
basically, what's going in there is like a little food court, because there's going to be wiring that's going to accommodate up to 5 to 6 food trucks that could position themselves, say during the lunch hour or on weekends, or when maybe there's some other activity on the plaza, and people could, choose whatever they would want from whatever food truck available.
Okay, so they want people to be able to sit there and eat.
Right, I think that's the primary purpose, is to have a spot where they could sit down and, enjoy whatever is being served by the food trucks.
Sure. And are they wanting the food trucks to sort of come and go just on the weekends, or are they wanting to have a permanent?
I can't answer that, because I really don't know, but I think it's kind of a work in progress. I mean, it may kind of develop by itself,
Okay.
that the food trucks are there daily, during the lunch hour primarily, kind of like Hutch's up here,
Mm-hmm.
and, down on Grand.
Okay.
But to basically give a space where people, could sit down and eat, and not have to take it in their vehicle and then go, home or, someplace to eat it. I think
Right.
that's what they're trying to achieve. And they do have a grant, they applied for a grant, to develop this too, and they got the grant.
Well, yeah, I'll contact them about the food court and talk to them about that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
he could probably answer you better than
Okay.
I could, yeah.
Great, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, yeah.
So with that being noted, is it within compliance of the city ordinance to approve this or to table it, or would it be, an additional information be needed?
Well, it's in a commercial zone, and they're basically constructing an accessory structure, right?
Yes.
So,
Because if there's even a doubt, then maybe it's best that we table that. Is the reason I'm saying this. I'd rather us take action on it, knowing that we have full support from the staff. Otherwise, if there's questions from the staff, then maybe,
I don't have any questions,
no, but,
because the commercial zones, they don't need,
they don't need a residence in order to build an accessory structure, you know, it's a little different, so.
and they don't have, all that area is commercial, so they really don't have setbacks, you know, and he's putting it kind of like into the center, and so that those food trucks or whatever they do decide to do there are able to park there. He's already got electricity there for that purpose. That he did about a year and a half ago.
Well, probably 4 months ago.
I know they
Yeah.
started the process in 2021 sometime,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure when they finalized it, but I know he's got electricity already in there for like the food trucks that go in or whatever he's got. So,
I have more questions about just the food court, not the gazebo necessarily.
the
So,
gazebos.
my only concern for them, the applicant, would be if they were to build the gazebo and for some reason the food court didn't work out, you know, but the structure itself is permitted in the zone.
all right,
I got a question.
Mr. Rubio.
Who's got the parking lot? Who owns this?
Doesn't the city own the?
Valencia parking lot,
You guys have it now, right?
the city, it belongs to the city,
Okay.
except a portion back there that belongs closer to Valencia, that belongs to, what's her name, Aragon?
From
That-
Albuquerque, yeah.
So it's gonna be
Only-
adjacent to the parking lot.
Mhm.
All right, but it's within their property.
It's within their property, yes, sir.
Yeah. So staff is okay with the application, it meets
Yes, sir, it does.
the code, everything? The ordinance, all right,
It meets the ordinance
all right,
parameters, as up, the building code, when he turns in his permit to CID, he'll let him know if it meets code or not.
all right. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
will it be, will you still have gravel there, Mr. Long, or is it where the canopy or gazebo will be, or,
well, the gazebo is going to be,
well, I see.
it's either going to be a concrete slab or maybe stonework. I mean, there's some masons that are doing a bunch of work out at the Royal College that he knows, and the discussion is obviously to put a floor there, whether it be concrete or stone, or, you know, kind of something so there is a clean surface. Yeah, and then I believe around the property itself, all that, the area, there will be gravel, you know, to cover that bare ground that's there.
Maybe that's what I was alluding to, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Long.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't have any.
Do we have a motion to accept the application as submitted?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the certificate of approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Medrano, do we have a second?
Second it.
Second by Mr. Rubio, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay?
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Long.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the next discussion, which is no discussion, and then adjournment, and then we go into the second meeting,
Yes, sir.
all right? Okay, so we have any other issues to discuss before we adjourn this? Staff? None? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Medrano, a second by Mr. Gallegos, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let the record reflect that we adjourned at 4:32 PM.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, for being tardy.
No worries, I think we're doing good time. Thank you for being here. We may have had to reschedule if you wouldn't have made it, so thank you for
I'm glad
showing
I
up.
made it. Mondays are
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to the second meeting. So I'd like to call this special Design Review Board meeting to order at 4:32 PM. Design Review Board meeting call to order. Roll call, please.
Jose Gallegos.
Here.
Roland Medrano.
Here.
Rick Rubio.
Here.
Harold Garcia.
Here.
All present.
Do I have a quorum? Do we have a motion to? Okay, we don't have minutes. So the first order of business is the application for certificate of approval for the demolition of the gazebo at Lincoln Park located at 711 Lincoln Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico, as submitted by Mr. Leo Maestas, City Manager on behalf of the City of Las Vegas. Can you present the item, staff?
This is an application for certificate of approval for the demolition of the gazebo at Lincoln Park located at 711 Lincoln Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico, 87701, as submitted by Leo Maestas, City Manager, on behalf of the City of Las Vegas owner.
And before we ask for the presentation, does it meet the requirements by community development for design review?
The demolition?
The-
Yes,
the
because it is a
application
dangerous,
itself?
yes.
All right.
Everything was done correctly.
Mr.
And
Chair.
Welcome,
the
Mr.
places,
Maestas.
the,
Mr. Chair. Can we have a clarification? This is just for the
Well, the
canopy
presentation will be made now.
and not the whole thing. That's what the thing is about. That's
Welcome, Mr. Maestas.
Thank you. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome, Mr. Manager.
So it was brought to our attention that the cover or the roof of the existing gazebo in the Lincoln Park has a lot of hazards associated with it. We have some problems with people staying in it, defecating in it. We've had numerous emergencies, public emergencies in the gazebo itself. So we did an assessment with an architect of the roof, being that it was questioned that if it was historic, the whole structure being the roof or the roof portion versus the bandstand. The bandstand's never been in question. The bandstand is historic. It's in registry. The top was constructed for the first movie of Red Dawn in '84. Then again, it was changed again for the movie of Wyatt Earp in '93. Since then, that prop was left there in its existing state, which was not built structurally sound for a gazebo of its nature. It was a movie prop, essentially. So that being said, our architect did an assessment, did identify that it was a hazard, give us their assessment, give us existing drawings of how it sits today, with the understanding that we would get approval from CCHP to demo the roof, get further construction drawings to remove the bench seating down to the deck or the slab of the gazebo, and reconstruct or re-erect a metal structure that would be structurally sound, and it would be less maintenance for the city moving forward.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Is it gonna be open?
So the idea is to, like I said, remove the bench seating, so we don't have anybody hiding inside of there, sleeping inside of that. We have to do an assessment with an architect to make sure that it would be structurally sound after we remove that down to the slab. For now, we need to remove the lid, we take our fencing down so we can maintain everything the way it was, eliminate the hazard for now. And then we'll move forward with getting an architect to give us construction drawings if it's feasible to remove that. If not, then we'll have to go to a different idea. But for now, we need to remove the hazard.
What's the anticipated timeline for replacement of the whole structure?
So the roof, we have an architect on staff are on contract, that we've already solicited him to start doing that assessment and see if he can come up with drawings that would suffice for removing those benches and reconstructing a metal structure above it. I can imagine that his assessment's probably going to take, in the market we're in, probably 3 or 4 months, I'd say. But if, with your approval, we can get in there and remove it within a few weeks to remove the hazard and get the fence down and be able to maintain the property. But I can imagine between getting architect stamp drawings and actually constructing, erecting a new structure, I'd say 6 months to a year to do that portion.
Any questions or comments from this?
So
board?
the demolition can be done right away,
Yes, sir.
and that removes the canopy.
Yes. And then we can remove the fencing and,
The concrete benches, if you look out and there's no rebar in it, it should go bye-bye.
yeah. We just have to make sure that the masonry, if it cuts right on the joints, on the masonry joint, so it doesn't further deteriorate the structure. Yes.
So you'll be slicing into the bench.
If it's feasible, if it's structurally feasible to cut down to the slab, yeah, which I believe is like 2.5 feet, 3 feet.
Mr. Medrano.
If I may. So, when the new structure, and I know that you haven't seen, or I don't think you've seen the structure, will you be able, will one be able to see through it from the outside?
Yes,
That
yes,
way,
sir. It'll resemble the plaza gazebo roof structure with the walls on it, or railing, I should say. Being that
In a
it's,
metal fashion.
yes, because it has a drop hazard, because this is 6 feet off the ground versus the plaza one is only 2.5 feet, 3 feet off the ground. So we would have to put that railing around.
So I have a question. Anytime that a structure is removed and another one is built in its place, I'm not exactly up to par with the uniform building codes, but I understand that if it's within a public facility, a public building, and this one would be considered a public facility, would the ADA requirements have to be complied with? And if that's the case, would a ramp be designed that would be aesthetically pleasing to the current structure, the current rock structure, or what are the plans of the city for that?
So we'll have to communicate with CCHP to see if we'd have to add a ramp on the backside and make sure that the original bandstand stairway stays existing. But I couldn't tell you off the bat right now if it would meet. Maybe Miss Amy can.
Yeah, so the Historic Preservation Division for the state, we'll be in contact with them about that, as Mr. Maestas said. Sometimes there's different options for historic structures versus new structures, right? And you're correct, anytime you're altering something, maybe the new codes prevail, right?
Right.
So we'll be in close contact with the Building Code Division and with the Historic Preservation Division to see what might be required. But since we're not really altering the existing stone structure, we may not have to, so we'll find out.
But if you're lowering the stone structure, you are altering the stone structure.
If we end up doing that, so we still don't know if we are. So,
Right.
yeah, we'll know more after we get some more assessment done. And just to be clear that the new design will come back in front of this board for a review and a recommendation to the council.
All right.
Mr. Chair, if
Mr.
I'm
Rubio.
correct, the ADA is going, depends on the length of the ramp, you're gonna have to put a landing in there.
Right.
So there'll have to be a landing somewhere in there and then another continuance.
Yeah, so we'll see what comes out of the study and what we'll have to do there. We just don't
Because
know yet.
the ramps take a lot of room. We did that at
They do.
Radiosaurus and man,
Yeah.
did we hit a fun time.
Okay.
And we have been in close communication with Ms. Carla McWilliams from the state CCHP. So they're in step with what we're doing.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Progress.
Progress? Okay. Mr. Gallegos, anything you'd like to say before we move forward? Mr. Medrano? Mr. Rubio? I think, how does the board feel about approving this?
I know it's Mr. Chairman, we've been here, this had come before the board, it's been a while now, I don't know how long ago, but it was here before us, and back then it was an issue, and it's still an issue, and obviously, I don't think it's continued to deteriorate. I've heard some issues with the people they're staying there also, or were staying there, so I think it needs attention, Mr. Chairman.
Well, dealing with government, government has to take into account the general safety and welfare of the community, with our structures. This definitely is a general safety and welfare issue, and on top of that, the canopy is not something that falls within the historical preservation guidelines. And so it's not compromising, the proposal today is not compromising any of the guidelines with regards to the historical significance of the gazebo. I am, however, concerned that we may be acting a little premature if there's an unknown on whether the rock is going to have to be compromised or not. I would hope that all of that falls into place the way it should fall into place, because this is not going to be the most appealing, regardless of what decision gets made here or what decision is made by the council. It's not going to be the most appealing project to the community. It's one of the community's most talked about properties, and I think it's time that we face it the way it's supposed to be faced. It does compromise the general safety and welfare of the public right now, and for that reason, I think we need to take action on it. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Medrano. We have a second by Mr. Gallegos. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
gentlemen.
Maestas. Any other discussion before we ask for adjournment? I think we have something else to discuss.
I have a quick, just
Okay.
along the lines of being new and
Okay.
finally meeting the design review board. I want to bring a lot more things in front of you, and I want to assure you that the city does take historic preservation seriously. And I think that the city, it's been a rough number of years, and I think that historic preservation is a goal of the city of Las Vegas. And I think that the city needs to set an example with the buildings that we own, and taking care of them and preserving them. And I think that then the public will know, we'll have an example to follow. I'm working on, with the Historic Preservation Division, finding some grant funds for private owners to do some improvements to their buildings, so we'll be talking more about that. And just as an example, I was walking around the neighborhood, and I noticed that one of the historic homes, they had replaced all of the existing windows with white vinyl windows and had put some new openings in the building, which does not exactly follow the guidelines. And so I had a nice talk with the owner and let him know that, I'm new, and that he probably wasn't even aware of the requirements, and he was just trying to improve the structure, which I appreciate. He was concerned about the windows and water leakage and further deterioration of the structure. And so we had a good talk, and I let him know that he wasn't in trouble, that, at this point the windows were already installed, and some of the windows were metal windows, they weren't even the original wood windows. So, but it brings to light the fact that a lot of folks don't know what the requirements are, or even if their building is historic. And so I want to do a lot more educational and public outreach for the community, so that they're aware of what do they own. Is it on the historic register? Is it not? What are the guidelines for them? So I think a lot more education and outreach is needed, and I think that's something we'll be working on. So, and I'll be in close contact with you about that.
Okay, so with regards to that issue you talked about, what position does the city take with that particular? I think I know the building you're talking about, because I saw where they
Yeah,
covered X amount of square feet on the window and they put a smaller window in its place and it stands out. I
yeah,
think I know which building you're talking about.
yeah, and they're also putting in an elevator.
Yes.
Because they have a handicapped granddaughter, and so they need to put the elevator in. And so, unfortunately, it was one of those that kind of happened under the radar, and all the work is commencing. And so the contractor's going to be in touch with me about the elevator. So the elevator's going on the exterior of the building, and they're going to be enclosing the structure with the same siding as the house, so that you really won't see it. It'll sort of be a bump out addition to the home. And so they're gonna bring me plans on that so that we can see it. But at this point, we're gonna take note in the file of the structure that these things have occurred. And the issue with that is, there's significant structures in a historic district, and then there's contributing structures. So this dwelling is a contributing structure. So what that means is, it's not the most significant structure in the district, but it does contribute to the district, as it has a lot of the elements of other structures. What happens is, when something like this happens and original fixtures are removed, let's say, additional penetrations are added into the building and the exterior is altered, what that does mean is that the building could be downgraded and become non-contributing to the district. And that would be a decision of the design review board. So at this point, there's no penalties to the owner. He really wasn't aware of what was going on, didn't really even know the house was historic, and so his goal really was to maintain the structure. The elevator is another thing, because they're really adding an addition onto the exterior of the building. So as soon as we get those plans, I'll disseminate them and share them with you. But at this point, it's so far along that I feel like it's something we need to note in the file for that historic structure, and then we can decide whether to take action on that at a later date. So.
And you do have a process where contractors come to your office for permits, right?
We do. Unfortunately, right now, they all go through CID, they go through Santa Fe. We don't have our own building inspector. So I think what happened in this case was they thought they would put the elevator on the interior of the structure, and then when the contractor got involved and really looked at the structural integrity of the building and where they wanted to put it, the concern was that it couldn't go on the inside without causing a lot of issues. So that's when it all of a sudden moved to the outside, and I say all of a sudden because we were not aware that it had moved to the outside. So I'll be in contact with that contractor and, make sure he's aware of a lot of our rules and regulations and get those plans from him. And I probably will bring that before you, but it's going to be somewhat after the fact at this point. So, but yeah, just as I start walking around the neighborhood and seeing these things, you're going to see a lot more of me, and you're going to hear a lot more from neighbors probably as we start this education and this outreach on some things that they can and can't do to their structures. I've heard a lot of misinformation. I talked to an HVAC owner that said he wasn't allowed to put ducting in the house because it was a historic house, and I said that's not the case. We do not regulate the inside of a historic structure. We only regulate the outside. So I let them know, wherever you put that condenser on the outside of the structure, we will want to know and have some say about where that goes. And is it going to be screened? What are you going to screen it with? Those kinds of things. But ducting inside a house, that's not, we don't get into that. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, I think, and so that's going to be my job for the next year or so, is to really get some more materials out for folks. I'm meeting with the Realtors Board on Thursday morning, and I'm just doing a little educational 101 with the Realtors Board on some of this stuff. And so yeah, we'll start working on a lot more education.
Thank you. Mr. Medrano.
I'd like to commend you, and I think that one of the issues that we've had before was that's come up before the board was the windows. And, if I recall, around the plaza, around the plaza as well. It also became an economic issue with some of the, some of the buildings. And that was a big issue, but I know that it's come before the board, and we've also have made the, I don't know if it's the right word, made, but we've talked to the owners that they gotta meet the historical guidelines. And, because I know that, and we've also, while I've been here, made some changes from vinyl to wood on some of the historical. And now, I know they weren't very excited about that because they had already installed them, but they went through, they went ahead and changed and worked with us. We gave them time, but I'm glad that you're doing that, and the city needs to have somebody like you out there informing the area locals, historical landowners or property owners in the area.
Yeah, and I let him know that if he had come to us about the windows, we probably could have found some funds to help him replace the windows with wood-clad windows, which wood-clad windows, the interior is of a modern material, but the outside is clad in wood. So from the outside, it appears to still be a wood window, and that's, when you have to replace windows, that's the preferred method for historic structures. The preference is always to repair, if you can, to repair, not replace. But in this case, he had quite a hodgepodge of windows going on. I don't think he had many, because he showed me the stack of windows he'd taken out, and most of them were not wood. The preference would have been that he replaced them all with wood-clad windows. So I let him know that, we could have probably helped him out with some grant money for that. He mentioned he might want to do the roof someday, and I said, please come talk to me before you do the roof. We might even be able to help you find some funds to help with the roof. So, yeah, I think as we move along and get more education out there, we can help with that and hopefully prevent that from happening. So.
Any other discussion before we adjourn? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let the record reflect that we adjourned at 4:55 p.m. It was good timing,
Thank you.
55 minutes.
Property exists.
Y el